a volunteer at Salford Metropolitan Athletic Club. This is a great facility which is based right next door to Incredible Education, and it's on the cusp of the Salford Greenway. The only unfortunate thing is that we're right next door, we're adjacent to the busiest stretch of motorway in the country, the Athl interchange, and I'm going to come to that in a moment. But if I could just take you through the idea that, you know, voluntary and community organisations and social enterprises, their business model is not based on making profits for individuals. The business model is based on what benefits can it bring to its local community. So what we've tried to do at Salford Met is we've tried to measure social value. Next slide, please. What is social value? Well, it's what benefits accrue to voluntary organisations, individuals and communities, on the basis of the costs that are spent delivering that service. Now, last year we spent £12,000. We spent £12,000 on keeping the club going. We attract something in the region of 250 to 300 members, but we do lots of other things in addition to that. So we use the Greater Manchester Combined Authorities model of how do you measure social value, and their definition is based on those 4 bullet points there. If we can evidence what does it bring to the organisation, what does that £12,000 spend bring, what does it bring to the immediate community, the local society, what does it bring to the local economy, and what does it bring to the environment? Next slide, please. Okay, this is what we do. We feel that the GMCA definition of social value tells our story best. And I guess the 2 key words that jump out for me from that list of bullet points there, which really describe our vision, is about excellence and inclusion. We don't believe those 2 things are mutually exclusive. You will get some organisations who struggle with that. Some organisations, I'm not necessarily talking about voluntary community organisations, schools are a good example, businesses are another good example. Some believe you can only be excellent, but you can't be inclusive, and vice versa. We don't believe in that at all. We believe that the 2 things can sit quite comfortably side by side. We know that childhood obesity is an issue. We know that in our local schools, you know, children are weighed and measured in the first year of primary school and the last year of primary school. And we know that in our schools in Salford, approximately 10% in year 1 of primary school, so that's age 5, about 10% are overweight or obese. We know there's another issue, early years, preschool, and we've not had that discussion today, but that's very much on the agenda too. But by the time we get to year 6, which is the final year of primary school, we're afraid to say that the BMI measurements have doubled to more than 20%. It's approximately 22%. So the problem's getting worse. The trajectory of travel is going in the wrong direction. If we're not careful and we don't address it, both at primary school and in early years, this is something that could continue on into adult life, and we don't want that to be the case. So although we know childhood obesity is an issue for us at Salford Met, what we do is we actually focus on family. We want family inclusion, family engagement. Now, some of our children are actually not in family scenarios, they're in care support. Equally, that doesn't really matter whether they're in care or whether they're in a structured family. We want the whole of the family and the care workers to be involved with us. And we focus on general health and well-being. So our mantra, if you like, is around the 3 E's: exercise, education, and environment. So yes, you can exercise with us. It's a running track, and you can do track and field, but also we want to encourage you to either, you can do that very vigorously if you want to, or you can do it very gently. We want to encourage an education around things like nutrition and the local environment as well. So those are the 2 E's are on our list, if you like. We do believe that if we can improve knowledge and understanding around things like, you know, what food you're putting inside of your body, how well are you keeping yourself hydrated, we can have those natural conversations with the people who come to the running club through a variety of methods. It doesn't have to be all focused on exercise. So one of the things we did, and this was with the support of Salford CVS, we asked some advice and support about where can we get money from to try and help us build a barrier between the running track and the motorway, that very busy motorway. We took some air quality readings and found that at the very times that people were exercising at our facility, we found that the air was full of arsenic, carbon monoxide, nitrous dioxide, all coming from particulate matter being spilled out of cars on what's supposedly supposed to be a smart motorway. Very smart for the motorists, not smart for the community. So within days, we actually got a connection through Salford CVS with an organisation called City of Trees, and YMCA Salford. And we managed to pull in £50,000, and that came from a combination of council funding and funding through City of Trees. We've subsequently planted 200 trees. We've got some fruit trees yet to be planted. We have 3 community garden beds where we grow our own fruit and herbs and vegetables, all there ripe for picking any time of the year. And that's the kind of thing that leads you into the conversations you can have quite naturally with people. When people see things like that, they see you have a facility like that, you then engage in immediately in other things. It's not just about exercise. And they do say that healthier lifestyle is probably 20% exercise, 80% nutrition. I've got to say, in a previous life, I was a manager of a large educational organisation, and I was able to prove a direct correlation between good nutrition and good hydration and exam pass rates. Just to give you an example of that, I asked my board for an investment of £100,000 to subsidise food being delivered through the canteen facilities. What we actually did is we increased the price of chips and pies, and we actually tried to discourage that on menu. And we made more nutritious options a lot cheaper, and we actually gave away free lunch. It was free on your plate. We installed drinking machines all over the place, and it took us a couple of years to prove it, but within that period, we were able to show that good hydration, good nutrition helps concentration levels. It'd be an interesting thing to actually check whether our schools in Salford, who were delivering the Daily Mile, and they were delivering all of those activities that Jude and Ross and Dean were alluding to earlier. It'd be interesting to compare those exam success rates of those children compared with schools that don't deliver those kind of things. That might be an interesting one for us to look at. Anyway, I won't go through all of the things that are on screen there. It's just nice to have a well-lit facility in a community, especially late at night. We do get engaged in all kinds of weekend competitions. In terms of our alumni, if you like, we have people who've competed at the Olympic Games, people who've competed for Great Britain, people who've competed who've got world records, and they still come to the track. They joined us as children. They're now adults, and they come back and they're helping to coach. And it's a good thing for our children, particularly, to see that those possibilities are open for them too. Next slide, please. So, as I said, what tells our story best? We believe that we're focusing on people's individual well-being. What benefits do we bring to the local community? In terms of sustainability, I've mentioned the point about measuring the air quality. We're going to measure that again next year once the trees have grown a little bit to see whether it has had an impact on cleaning the environment. And in terms of diversity and inclusion, we're not there just talking about, the usual things around, wanting to work with people with disabilities or learning difficulties and disabilities. We do have members who have autistic tendencies. We have people who have physical disabilities. We also want to be inclusive in terms of our financial inclusion. So one of the things we've done recently during lockdown is we've not been charging anybody to come to the track. Just come along and exercise or pick some of the fruit. Just stay involved. So financial inclusion is another important thing. And very discreetly, we do provide people with free equipment if we know there's an affordability issue. Next slide, please. So finally, this basically, we feel that the value, the added social value, and it's not all about money, but the added social value we feel we provided last year for the £12,000 we spent. We've begun to routinise physical and mental health activity. We've got people who use us, and they're not all children. We have many adults. We have people in the 70s and 80s who come and exercise too. They're less dependent on medical and support services. We've put Salford on the map. We support all of the schools cross countries. Fantastic to see 600 children running through Buell Hill Park on a Saturday morning. But we also attend weekend competitions and so on. That puts Salford on the map in the northwest of England. We have belief and aspiration for our children. They can see that, if you work hard, there are benefits to be had out of that. We've improved the local skill base of people. Anybody who volunteers for us, and we have 24 volunteers who last year contributed 5,000 hours of volunteering work. We actually train them in things like safeguarding, how to plan a session, how to disaggregate your session and make it available so that individuals can access it, whatever their level of ability. We've saved thousands of pounds by using our parental skill set. When we did our parental skills audit, we found that we had doctors, physiotherapists, accountants, teachers, nurses, all part and parcel of the membership. What we're not saying is, you know, can you come and give us loads of time? Sometimes we just might be asking them their advice on things, but they help to shape what the club actually looks like. We've got great joined up working with our local GP surgeries. We actively encourage them to refer people to us rather than prescribe tranquilizers. You know, get them to us and let's see if we can get them into a different mode of thinking. And as I said, that final thing there, we are very optimistic that we do now have cleaner air and a reduced carbon footprint. So self-help, reduced dependency, cleaner environment. That's a good example of social value. Next slide, please. So the resources and time needed to collect and analyse all that information on social value, that's a big ask for voluntary organisations. And the question I wanted to pose, not to answer now, but are there ways in which we could perhaps work together on this? Is there a formula we could collectively use to look at how we can gather simple pieces of information that gives us all an indication of what voluntary community and social enterprise organisations are doing in terms of contributing to social value and reducing those levels of childhood obesity? Final slide, please. And there we have an example of an open event last Christmas, top right-hand corner, all the families that came and ran around the track, and we had, you know, mince pies and some presents and gifts afterwards. The slide below on the top, the bottom right-hand corner, it's an example of the, we call it the Champs-Élysées at the back of our hill. That's between the track and the motorway. But that's 2 rows of trees. We've got to plant a 3rd row on the top of the hill, which will be a beach edge. We'll then have a really solid barrier of plants that will absorb all the harmful particulate matter coming from the motorway. And the slide on the left is a good friend of mine, Jane, from YMCA Salford, who also is based at Stockport Athletic Club. And she brought her apprentices. She's a horticultural specialist, Jane, and she brought her apprentices and they built the garden beds for us. And as a result of that, some of those apprentices have joined us as members. By the way, before they started work, we always did the daily mile by walking around the track 4 times. But some of those young people have actually joined us as members, and a couple of them have been trained up as club officials, you know, where we go out to events and they do measuring of distances for javelin throwing and things like that, which is pretty good for young people who've left school with few or no qualifications. So that's it from me.